This is 5 of the most common mistakes when it comes to learning off-camera flash. And of course, we're gonna discuss how to fix it. Let's get into it. What's up, friends? My name is Pi. Welcome to SRR Lounge. This, as you probably know, is Kiara. We're gonna link her up so you guys can give her a follow as well. And we're here actually just outside of our studio in the middle of the parking lot. And we're gonna start here. I'm gonna work through some of the most common mistakes that we make when first starting to learn off-camera flash. So of course, along with that come the solutions, but you know me, I like to get straight into things. So let's start with number 1. In my opinion, the biggest mistake that we make when learning off-camera flash is not thinking first about the intention of the photograph. Do we want something dramatic? Do we want something natural? I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. First scene, as you can see, we're in the middle of a craptastic parking lot. We're gonna start here just to show that you can still create something cool, especially when you understand light, but we're also gonna go inside so that way we have a more controlled environment. As I show you some of the other mistakes, we can see things in comparison mode. But I wanna be here because all of these techniques are things that you guys can use on the go. In fact, most of my work is actually on location work. So for the light, I have the ProPhoto B10X along with the 3-foot Octa. This is one of my favorite combos. The Octa breaks down to this tiny travel bag that you can literally stick anywhere. Take it on carry-on luggage, anywhere you like. And with the two paired, you get high power, quality light source anywhere you want to shoot. Okay, so with that, I have it about 45 degrees off my camera angle towards Kiara. And I'm gonna have Kiara kind of stand more in the center of this sidewalk, and we're gonna go back to the camera. I'm using my Canon R5 paired with a 7200. Use any camera, any lens combo you like. I'm using a 7200 here because it lets me really control the background. So I'm gonna start with just the natural light image, okay? So let's start here. Okay, 1/250th, f2.8 and low ISO. This is what I get. And that's roughly the composition that I'm gonna keep throughout this entire set. So this is a great natural light image. Nothing wrong with this, right? The first place that we kind of go wrong is we just jump straight into lighting. We don't think about the intention of the photograph. Do we want something dramatic? Do we want something natural? We basically just turn everything on, and I'm gonna go ahead and dial in a shutter speed, and I'm gonna go ahead and just keep this on max power. So at 1/1000th, f2.8 and low ISO, we get this. And this is a very dramatic image, right? The background is pulled down. We have a lot of flash power on our subject. And it's often these types of images that make us think that, you know, flash can't really look natural. It always looks dramatic. It always looks like it's flashed. This is a huge mistake. Flash can totally look natural. So here's how you're gonna do it. The first thing that I want you to do, rather than thinking about anything about the light at all, set your intention to the photograph. Do you want something dramatic or something natural? So let's say first, I wanna start with a more natural look. So what I'm gonna do is get my composition dialed in, get everything in my camera set up, and I'm gonna adjust the exposure to where I want the background to kind of be exposed. We get this, right? Now, from this place, having set my intention or my in-camera exposure, I'm gonna go ahead, pop the remote on, and I'm gonna use less flash power. See, at 10 power, this is what I get. It's way too much light, right? I don't need that much light. So I'm gonna dial it back to like 8. This is 1/4 power, 25% power, and I'm gonna take the same exact shot. That's gorgeous. Okay, so putting those two images side by side, left side is natural light, right side is flash used in a subtle and natural way. Both images still look natural, but with that flashed image, we're able to use the flash to subtly create direction of light, improve light quality, clean up skin tones, add catch lights. It's a beautiful, and of course, I'm gonna say it again, natural look to the image despite using flash. Now let's say I want something more dramatic. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Set my intention with the in-camera exposure. So look, I want something around here where my background is kind of dark like this. This is 1/500th, f2.8 and low ISO. Now I'm gonna place the remote back on. We're gonna take the same shot, but remember I haven't touched my power setting yet. So what we notice is we get a little bit of light on our subject, but we need more. So this is where I'm gonna go back up to full power. We're gonna go to 10, and I'm gonna take the same shot. And boom, there's our dramatic image, which I love this. I'm gonna shoot a few more of these on our way back in the studio. I'm gonna explain, well, when do you wanna go dramatic versus more natural in your intention? Okay, so the mistaken intention is just not thinking about it before you take your shot, not thinking about whether you want something dramatic, whether you want something natural. But is there a right or wrong? I'd say not really. It's completely subjective, but what I do like to do is match my exposure, whether I want dramatic or natural, match the intention to the actual story of the photograph, right? So in this instance, I love that dramatic look because Kiara has very strong poses. She has this cool, badass suit that she's wearing. So the dramatic look fits really nicely. But it's really gonna be about the story of the photograph. Look to match the quality and the brightness, the exposure, all of that to the intention of the photograph you're creating. We're now in the studio. We're gonna go through the rest of the 4 mistakes and how to fix them. This is gonna be more positional mistakes in terms of positioning the flash. So we can go through these not only quickly, but being in the studio is gonna give us a really great comparison point as we look between images. We can see subtle differences, but all these concepts, I want you to take them on location, in studio, wherever you're shooting, it's gonna apply. Let's quickly run over the lighting setup. So in the back of the studio, I've placed a B10 onto a stand just to give me a little bit of fill light so that my scene is not completely dark, okay? So I'm gonna show you what it looks like with just that one flash firing. I'm at 1/200 f2.8 and low ISO. And all we're doing is just adding enough light to the scene where the shadows are kind of somewhat filled, kind of like how it would be if we're outside and we're working with existing light sources, right? For my main light, we're using the B10X with a 3-foot octa. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring this up and give you a test shot so you can see exactly what this kind of looks like. We're gonna bring it to roughly this height and at 6 power, and we're gonna take the same shot, just so you can see exactly what the fill light was doing versus what the main light doing. Most of our work right now is being done by the main light. I just want some shadows to be filled with that background light. So mistake number 2, we often don't place the flash high enough. So what happens when your flash is placed a bit too low? I'm gonna bring this down, and let's say that we kind of try to match maybe Kiara's height a bit, and we kind of angle this right here. Oftentimes we get our flashes into this position, we just start shooting, right? And what tends to happen when your flash is a bit low is that you end up with unnatural direction of shadows. So when you look at that image, it looks just a bit off. And the reason why it looks off is because when the shadows are kind of cutting across the face or even going up on the face, it doesn't look like how we typically see light. There is a time and place to use that bottom-up lighting technique, by the way, which often is dubbed campfire lighting, right? When you want to simulate a campfire, when you want to simulate a light source coming from the bottom for the purpose of a scene, that makes sense. But for the most part, when you're doing portraits, you want to have your light source a bit higher than your subject, slightly angled down towards their face, and kind of be on this level. Now, the next mistake, again, another positional mistake that we often make is we start going, yeah, you know what, we do need to raise the light up, and what we kind of do is we, by mistake, raise it up a bit too high. And remember, everything, all the settings are the exact same. We take that shot. Now, in looking at this, the first thing I want to say is this high light source can be used stylistically with intention. But I want you to understand this. Let's place these 2 images side by side. So the one on the left where the light source is just above the subject and kind of angled down, you notice that the catch lights in the eyes, they're much brighter. We're getting a lot more light in the eyes. It's a much more lively image. When you look at the other one, when the light source is very high, we tend to lose the eyes. We kind of want to place the light. The optimal angle when it comes to portraits like this is slightly higher than your subject, angled a little bit down, and there you go. Mistake number 4 is placing the light modifier too far from your subject. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the same composition right here. We're gonna go for a close shot. We haven't changed anything yet. The light's in the right position. And I'm also gonna do a shot where we get full length, okay? Just so we can see how the shadows are kind of hitting the ground. I'm gonna give you all a general rule. If you want the light to look how the modifier was intended to be used, okay? Then you want to roughly be around 1 to 2 times in distance, be working in that range, as to the size of that modifier. What I mean is this is the ProPhoto 3-foot octa, so I'd want to be working with this roughly between 3 feet and 6 feet, 1 to 2 times the size of that modifier. This is a subjective rule, of course, because you could push it back, and if you don't care about the quality of light and whatnot, it doesn't matter, right? But I want you to notice what happens when we do. So I'm gonna bring this back now. Let's double the distance, okay? Roughly double the distance. So I'm gonna go to right here. I'm gonna make sure it's boomed up still, so it's kind of angled directly at Kiara. Now, if you guys watch some of my other tutorials, or if you know inverse square law, you know that if we double the distance, we're getting 1/4 the power, right? So I actually gotta bring this up from 6 to probably 8, roughly. Let's take the close-up shot. And the first thing I want you to pay attention to in that close-up shot is just how much sharper the shadows got. So when you look compared to that first close-up versus this one, the shadows get much more defined. The light direction is still roughly the same, but it's a significant difference. We're also hitting a lot more light onto the background, so you'll notice that the light's kind of opening up. We had to power it up, so we're getting a much brighter background as well. Now let's take the wide shot and compare the full-length image. And now you can really see that in the full-length image, we're actually starting to see a lot more definition in the shadows. What if I actually double the distance again? And again, I want to say this, there can be a purpose to doing this. Like, if I'm doing a wedding party and I might not mind so much the distance of it, I want to think like, okay, I might place it further than 5 feet, or I might place it at 10 feet, because what's more important to me is the fall off that light. The more distance I get, then the more even the lighting is going to be from left to right in a large group, right? But I just need to understand that as I place this further back, it starts to look significantly different. So now I powered it up to full power, by the way. Okay, and now it almost just looks like a standard flash head. Like, we're starting to get a very sharp, very defined edge on that close-up. And now look at the full-length shot. It starts to look literally like a bare flash. So one thing that we learn when it comes to the quality of light is, you probably have often heard that the larger the light source, the softer the light, right? But the key there is understanding that that is in relation to your subject. The sun is a huge light source, but it's so far away from us that it's a pinprick in the sky. And because of that, it creates a very hard, very defined edge with that light source. Mistake number 5. This one is very common. We often don't think about the angle of light in relation to the story we're trying to tell, okay? I don't want to say that there's a wrong angle of light, because like every angle has kind of something of a purpose to it, right? And I'm not going to go through all the lighting patterns. What I will say is, where we started here, 45 degrees off the camera angle, this creates a Rembrandt light. The Rembrandt light is basically where you're lighting one side of the face, and on the other side, you create a highlight on the far cheek. It's one of my favorite lighting patterns because it creates a lot of, well, it creates a lot of dimension. It's dramatic, but it's also looks natural. It also has a lot of shape to it. I really like the look, right? But in, say, beauty work, you often see more of a flat light. That light's gonna come basically directly above and right in front of the subject, because it fills in all the kind of, texture, all the lines on the face. It's a very flattering look. What I want to show you is when our light does not necessarily match. So I'm going to bring this over here. We're going to light Kiara with a split light. Oddly here, it might just work, and I'll explain exactly why. The reason that this kind of works right now is because of our subject matter. Look, Kiara's dressed in this really cool stylish suit. She's got a leg out. It's very edgy. She's showing some skin. It's also against a white wall. So a highly edgy and dramatic light direction kind of fits. But if you're doing, say, headshots or wedding portraits or anything that's this dramatic, is probably going to be too much. So match the angle of your light source, match the pattern, right? The angle is really controlling the pattern of light that we're using. Match that pattern to your subject. If you want something very flattering, very soft, you might go straight on with a flat pattern or a Paramount lighting pattern. If you want more dimension, maybe something more like a Rembrandt pattern. And if you want something very dramatic, you can go to, say, a split light or something else. That's it for me. Kiara, you want to wave bye? We still have some more work to do on our own, but hope you all enjoyed. As always, I'd love to see you all in the comments below. I get tons of my ideas from your comments. If you guys have questions, thoughts, what you want to see in future videos. We're, of course, also going to link up all the gear that we use in the video. We want to thank Profoto for sponsoring education like this. They allow us to create good organic education and just help teach our community. And that's incredibly valuable, both to me and the people that we serve. So that's it for me. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.